Heyo and welcome back to Cartoon Mania. Today we'll cover the series Johnny Bravo from beginning to end in detail. So kick back, relax, and enjoy.
1, 2, 3,
This show is all about Johnny's hilarious adventures as he chases after women with the confidence of a peacock on steroids. Now let me tell you, this dude thinks he's the ultimate ladies man. He's got this Elvis-style hair going on, and he's convinced that his chiseled physique and good looks make him irresistible. But here's the kicker, he's about as clueless as a goldfish when it comes to winning over the ladies. No matter how hard Johnny tries, he's constantly faced with rejection. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion, except it's ridiculously funny. His attempts to impress women often end up in epic fails and awkward moments that'll leave you rolling on the floor laughing. Johnny also naively and faultily believes that all women want him even when they express the fact that they are uninterested. Because of this, Johnny has the courage to talk to any woman without hesitation and even kisses one upon meeting her in the pilot. His mom, Bunny Bravo, had some interesting parenting techniques, to say the least. She had a thing for dressing him up in a bunny suit, which must have been quite a sight to behold. Now, when it came to mealtime, Bunny had her own special tricks up her sleeve. If little Johnny didn't want to eat, she'd distract them by pointing out something in the opposite direction and sneakily shoving the food into his mouth. One time, Bunny decided to feed Johnny a slice of baked ham instead of baby food. I guess she thought he needed a little gourmet touch in his diet, and to top it all off, she would leave him in his crib, turning off the lights and letting his imagination run wild with fearsome monsters lurking up in the dark. No wonder he still has a fear of the dark as an adult. That's a one-way ticket to Trauma Town right there. But hey, let's not judge Bunny too harshly. In Look Who's Drooling, she finally realized that maybe a daycare was a better option when she got busy. A little late to the party, but better late than never, right? It seems that his interest in the opposite sex started at a remarkably young age. In the episode Blanky Hanky Panky, we get a glimpse into Johnny's past and discover that he had his first kiss as a baby. But alas, it didn't quite go as planned for our little romantic. Instead of a sweet response, his playmate promptly slapped him, marking the beginning of Johnny's lifelong journey of romance and rejection. From that moment on, it seems that Johnny's pursuit of love and his encounters with the opposite sex were destined to be filled with comedic mishaps and humorous misadventures. Johnny had his fair share of bullies as a kid. In the episode T is for Trouble, young Johnny Bravo showed his admiration for Mr. T by writing him a letter, seeking advice on how to handle his bully, little Ricky Simmons. Back in elementary school days, poor Johnny Bravo had to put up with Stinky Brownstein and her prankster ways. She had a knack for pulling off hilarious tricks on him, like convincing him it was cross-dressing day at school. Can you imagine the look on Johnny's face? And who could forget the classic frozen flagpole incident, where Stinky had him convinced that it was a tasty candy treat? But Stinky's piece de resistance was when she decided to give Johnny an unforgettable pants-down surprise on their graduation day. In school years, poor Johnny Bravo was a short, acne-ridden fella. And who came along to make his life a bit more interesting? Yep, Carl the bully, flexing his 3-week-older superiority, demanding Johnny's lunch money. In the Time of My Life episode, we catch a glimpse of Johnny Bravo as a scrawny teenager tipping the scales at a whopping 98 pounds and sporting a stylish mullet. He had his eye on Sandy Baker, the belle of the school and all-around sweetheart. But alas, every hero needs a villain, and in this tale, it was Trent, the bully who thought it'd be fun to toss Johnny into a trash can. Enter Sandy, the knight in shining armor, who couldn't stand for such nonsense. She stepped in, forced Trent to apologize, and reminded him that picking on guys without huge muscles wasn't cool. As fate would have it, Sandy's act of kindness brought her and Johnny together. They got to know each other, discovering they shared a Spanish class. And to sweeten the deal, Sandy offered to come over and study with Johnny. In a moment of bravery, Johnny seized the opportunity and asked Sandy to be his prom date. Cue the tears of joy and a resounding yes from Sandy. Who knew that a trash can encounter could lead to such a magical high school romance? Determined to be the ultimate prom date for Sandy, Johnny knew he had to transform into a muscular man. Taking inspiration from a comic book, he ordered workout equipment from the renowned Flex Big Arms. It was time to get ripped. Weeks of intense workouts and chugging down the magical muscle powder paid off, and Johnny Bravo emerged as the muscular man we know today. Prom night finally arrived, and Johnny, looking like a walking mountain of muscles, showed up at Sandy's house with high hopes. But to his dismay, it appeared empty. His heart sank as he assumed he had been stood up. Poor Johnny. Determined to get some answers, Johnny planned to confront Sandy at school the next day. However, fate had other plans. Sandy seemed to have disappeared from his sight, leaving Johnny longing for an explanation. Little did he know that the truth was a bit different. Years later, Sandy finally revealed that she had actually told Johnny that she was moving away, but unfortunately, it seemed that he had forgotten amidst all the prom preparations. Johnny Bravo, our beloved embodiment of charming goofiness, is not exactly renowned for his intellectual prowess. In fact, he's as gullible as they come. From a young age, he earned the title of Bonehead, and it has stuck with him ever since. According to the wise words of an anthropologist, yes, a bona fide scientist, Johnny's intelligence might fall just below that of our furry primate friends. Can you believe it? Even monkeys could potentially outsmart our lovable, albeit slightly dim-witted Johnny Bravo. But hey, let's not be too hard on him. After all, he's got the looks and muscles to make up for any lack of brain power, right? Johnny's expertise lies more in his personal interests than in academics. He's like an encyclopedia when it comes to Jerky Jake's brand beef jerky. Seriously, this guy knows all there is to know about flavors, textures, and everything jerky related. Johnny Bravo takes fandom to a whole new level when it comes to action TV star Squint Ringo. He's not just a fan, he's the biggest fan. With a lifetime membership to Squint's fan club and a collection of merchandise that could fill a warehouse, Johnny's devotion knows no bounds. He prides himself on knowing every move and catchphrase of his idol, and he's not afraid to use those moves to his advantage. Whether it's cutting in line or being the last one to get Squint's autograph, Johnny is determined to make the most of his fan status. When it comes to food, Johnny Bravo has two major obsessions: nachos and Pop's chili. These culinary delights hold a special place in his heart, and he'll go to great lengths to get his hands on them. Johnny Bravo may appear carefree, but beneath his tough exterior lies a vulnerable side. In the episode Freudian Dip, he dives into therapy with Susie to conquer his monster-filled nightmares. And guess what? He hilariously spills the beans about feeling lonely and having intimacy issues. Who knew this muscle-bound ladies' man had such an emotional depth? Johnny also shows some self-awareness about his childish nature, ashamed of secretly sucking his thumb and kissing his pillow pretending it's a girl. Despite his desire to appear in control, he openly admits feeling like a little baby when those pesky nighttime monsters creep into his thoughts. In fact, in the episode Johnny's Guardian Angel, Johnny gets a glimpse of what the world would be without him. In a series of unfortunate events, Johnny's clumsiness and bad luck seem to be on full display. When Carl proudly presents his new Nougat-based computer, Johnny's accidental arm movement sends it crashing to the ground, leaving Carl devastated. Things only get worse as Johnny stumbles and falls into Bunny's meticulously maintained flower bed, earning him a scolding and Bunny retreating inside. Just when he thinks things can't get any worse, Susie approaches him with a simple request to hold her red balloon while she ties her shoe. However, Johnny's fumbled fingers strike again as he uses the wrong hand, inadvertently letting go of the balloon and leaving Susie in tears as it floats away. Johnny is deeply saddened for hurting these three and wishes he was never born to begin with. Just then, an angel descends from heaven and takes him to a reality where he was never born. He sees that the computer he broke in his own reality has made Carl a billionaire. As for his mother, without having a son to worry about, she becomes an undercover agent for the government who goes by the codename Madam X. And lastly, Susie has turned out to be a supervillain who aims to destroy the entire city of Cleveland. Despite thinking the world is much better without him, he soon comes to the conclusion that he cannot deprive the world of his great looks and wishes the angel to send him back to his own world. You go, boy! In the episode A Fool for Sister Sarah really tried to work her magic on Johnny Bravo. She had this grand idea of turning him into a nice, noble fella to win her over. But let's face it, Johnny being Johnny, he couldn't keep up with the whole nice guy act for too long. It just wasn't in his nature. Poor Sarah must have been pulling her hair out, giving him chance after chance to change, but our boy Johnny just couldn't resist being his usual self. A bit clueless and self-obsessed. Things took a wild turn when Sarah finally had enough, and she went full Hulk mode and unleashed her frustrations on Johnny, beating him up real good. And now let's talk about some other characters in the show. Bunny's life has been quite adventurous to say the least. In the midst of the Vietnam War, Bunny found herself behind the wheel as a race car driver, taking advantage of the absence of men to burn rubber on tracks. And if that wasn't remarkable enough, Bunny claims to have had a run-in with the legendary Jimi Hendrix at Altamonte, where he apparently set her guitar on fire. Not sure if that's a code for something. Fast forward to later years, Bunny became a proud mother to Johnny. During his adorable baby years, Bunny would often dress him up in an adorable bunny suit, adding an extra dose of cuteness to her already eventful life. Johnny's relationship with his mother, Bunny, is a unique one. He lovingly refers to her as Mama and is closest to her. Bunny has a tendency to be overly protective of Johnny, but at the same time, she can be neglectful, which has led to him becoming overly dependent on her and lacking knowledge about many things. Despite their quirks, Bunny hopes that Johnny will find his special someone and occasionally set him up on blind dates in her quest to find him a partner. Bunny's love for her son Johnny is undeniable, but their relationship can sometimes become strained when Bunny seeks some much-needed alone time to relax. However, Bunny also holds on to the memories of Johnny's baby years dearly, keeping almost everything from that time period. She reminisces about those precious moments and cherishes the memories of Johnny's early stages of life. Her love may come in unconventional ways, but it's clear that Johnny holds a special place in her heart. Parenthood can be complex, and Bunny's mix of self-centeredness and genuine love creates a unique dynamic in their relationship. Little Susie is a precocious and talkative young girl who often appears in the show as a neighbor and friend of Johnny Bravo. She's portrayed as being highly intelligent for her age and is known for her witty remarks and observations. According to Susie's 4th grade teacher, Miss Winkleman, Susie's grade point average in social skills is the highest in recorded time. This humorous statement highlights Susie's exceptional abilities when it comes to interacting with others and navigating social situations. Little Susie is one of the few characters in the show who sees through Johnny's shallow persona and frequently interacts with him, often revealing his flaws and helping him learn important life lessons. She is a sort of foil to Johnny's exaggerated masculinity and serves to provide a more grounded perspective. In the 1st and 4th seasons, Susie develops a crush on Johnny, much to his dismay. Despite Johnny's constant rejection, Susie remains unfazed by his disinterest. This crush becomes particularly evident when Susie asks Johnny to be her chaperone to the 2nd grade dance, only to be turned down again. Poor thing. To make matters more complicated, Johnny notices a geeky boy who has a crush on Susie. In an attempt to help Susie find a suitable date, Johnny takes it upon himself to coach the boy on how to impress girls, hoping that Susie will choose him instead. Despite finding Susie annoying, Johnny does have a soft spot for her, and he feels guilty when he inadvertently makes her cry in the episode Cookie Crisis. In a moment of weakness, Johnny finally gives in to Susie's persistent cookie-selling efforts and buys cookies from her. While he initially resisted, seeing Susie's tears tugs at his conscience and prompting him to give in to her requests. Another instance in the episode Tooth or Consequences, where Johnny finds himself in a sticky situation when he tells Susie that the tooth fairy isn't real. Seeing Susie miserable and upset, Johnny is overcome with guilt and sheds a tear. In an attempt to make amends, he decides to cheer her up by donning a makeshift tooth fairy costume and granting her wishes, despite his earlier claim that the tooth fairy wasn't real. Susie and Bunny also share a good relationship, as demonstrated when Bunny visited Susie in the hospital after her tonsillectomy. In a heartwarming gesture, Bunny brought Johnny along dressed as a clown to bring some cheer to Susie during her recovery. Susie and Carl's friendship is evident in their playful interactions, such as in the episode The Color of Mustard. The two are all set to play a game of badminton together, enjoying each other's company. However, their plans take an unexpected turn when Johnny decides to join the game and ends up defeating both Susie and Carl, leaving them bewildered and probably a bit disappointed. And speaking of Carl, let's have a little introduction. Carl Krinicevics is Johnny Bravo's neighbor who debuted in Season 2. Carl is Johnny's self-proclaimed best friend, a local genius and a geek. He is often considered annoying by others, mostly due to his high-pitched nasal voice. Carl's love for role-playing is evident in his various adventures and imaginative scenarios. In the episode Carl Be Not Proud, Carl enthusiastically involves Johnny in a role-playing game where they assume the characters of Biff Proton and Trip McCoy, respectively, complete with costumes and all. In another episode, Law and Disorder, Carl cleverly suggests a therapeutic role-playing session with a mall burglar, even entertaining everyone with his unique rendition of cabaret singer Billie Holiday. And let's not forget Carl's memorable stint as part of the town fire brigade, where he proclaims it as his favorite part of being a fireman before hilariously playing the role of a cat stuck in a tree, causing a comedic fright for both Johnny and Pops. Carl is all about justice, no matter the cost. In Hail to the Chump, when Johnny's terrible mayoral rule lands him in jail, Carl takes charge and rallies the town to overthrow Johnny's reign. He becomes the people's champion, fighting for change and putting an end to Johnny's crazy leadership. In another episode, Lord of the Links, Carl's fairness shines through. Johnny cheats in a golf tournament and Carl joins in, but with a twist. He exposes another player who was cheating with magnets and iron shavings. Realizing their own cheating was just as bad, Carl gives the trophy to the prospector instead. In the episode Rashomon, Carl starts to share his life story with Bunny Bravo, but his tale gets interrupted. He hilariously claims that he was born in a log cabin and that his father's job was splitting silicon chips. In an old photograph of Johnny and his classmates, Carl can be seen as a child laughing at Johnny after one of Stinky's pranks. Despite being Johnny's best friend in the present, Carl used to be a big bully to our little macho man back in school. However, now that he is Johnny's self-proclaimed best friend, he often tries his best to save him from peculiar situations. In one hilarious episode, Endless Bummer, Carl becomes Johnny's hero when he swoops in and saves him from drowning at the beach. And if that wasn't enough, in another wacky adventure called Biosphere Johnny, Carl takes friendship to the extreme by offering himself as a sacrificial lamb to save Johnny. Who knew that Carl had such a flair for melodrama? Johnny Bravo often finds himself annoyed by Carl's company in episodes like Brave New Johnny and Johnny Goes to Camp. However, over time, Johnny starts to tolerate Carl a bit more, and despite still teasing him, they do share some geeky interests like comic books, which Carl once caught Johnny reading. So while they may have a quirky dynamic, there's a hint of a bond between them. In the episode Carl Be Not Proud, Johnny Bravo finds himself in a hilariously awkward situation. Despite his constant claims of hating Carl, Johnny gets wind of a misunderstanding that Carl is on the verge of death. Suddenly, all of Johnny's tough guy posturing goes out of the window as he's hit with a wave of regret. The realization that he might lose Carl forever shakes him to his core, and he's left pondering the consequences of his behavior. Despite their connection and Carl's usual friendly behavior, there are times when he loses his cool and insults Johnny. This can be seen in episodes like Forest Chump and Doommates, where the two get in trouble after arguing. However, despite their conflicts, in the episode Adam West Date-O-Rama, Johnny Bravo participates in a dating show and his friends Carl and Susie are mentioned as his companions. When questioned about his fears, they reveal that Johnny is afraid of commitment. Now, given how the show is all about Johnny chasing after women, he has bonded with several women throughout the show. So let's talk about the most notable ones. Jane, the spy, was one tough cookie who initially couldn't stand Johnny's idiocy and arrogance. She even gave him a good beating, but fate had other plans for them. Forced to work together on a spy mission against Dr. Pencilneck, things took a wild turn. As they thwarted the villain's schemes, Jane's heart softened towards Johnny. And guess what? Johnny finally scored his first on-screen kiss. It was supposed to be a steamy moment, but Jane accidentally used her weaponized lipstick and knocked herself out with malaria. Talk about a kiss that packs a punch, huh? Fluffy was a rare gem who fell head over heels for Johnny, oblivious to his idiocy. Their date was off to an enthusiastic start until Johnny discovered Fluffy's dark secret. She was a werewolf who transformed at night. Surprisingly, Fluffy's affection for Johnny remained unchanged, even in her furry form. Johnny, hesitant but curious, decided to give their relationship a chance, knowing she would eventually turn back into a human. The morning after, things were getting steamy between them when Fluffy dropped a bombshell. It turned out that on Wednesdays, she transforms into an annoying little bald man named Melvin. Johnny's horror was immeasurable, and it seemed like their relationship hit a dead end. Velma from the Scooby-Doo franchise had a major crush on Johnny, but he had his sights set on Daphne Blake instead. Despite Johnny's lack of interest, Velma was relentless in her pursuit, constantly making flirty advances and finding ways to get physically close to him whenever she could. It seemed like Velma was determined to win Johnny's heart, even if it meant going against his preferences. In one of the bumpers titled Cartoon Network Mold Johnny Bravo for Velma, Johnny surprised everyone by falling in love with Velma and even proposing to her. However, Velma, dedicated to her career as a detective, had to turn down his proposal. Despite this, they continued to hang out and date, as depicted in subsequent bumpers. It seems that Johnny's infatuation with Velma persisted and they found enjoyment in each other's company, even if marriage was off the table. Femme was like no other woman who had ever crossed paths with Johnny Bravo. Not only was she attracted to his charming dumbness, but she also happened to be equally lacking in the smarts department. Their unconventional journey began when Femme hired Johnny, who was trying his hand as a detective, to chase after her criminal rivals. Little did she know that Johnny's cluelessness would inadvertently lead him to crack the case and expose Femme as the true culprit. Despite the twist, Femme couldn't help but remain fond of our lovable hero. However, fate had different plans for them too, and their star-crossed love story was destined to be short-lived, as their opposing roles on the right and the wrong side of the law couldn't be reconciled. The police finally caught up with Femme, and she was taken away, leaving Johnny with a mix of emotions. But before bidding him farewell, Femme couldn't resist giving him a sloppy goodbye kiss on the cheek. Even though life took them on separate paths, Johnny never forgot Fem. In fact, she even appeared as his perfect dream girl in the episode In Your Dreams, proving that their connection lingered even in his subconscious fantasies. Even though Johnny never found the love of his life, he left us with hilarious adventures and memories to cherish for years to come. The show ended after 4 seasons in August 27, 2004, but to this day, it is the most unique and memorable show of all time. But what do you think? Was it among your favorites when you were little? Do let us know down in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, drop us a like and subscribe to Cartoon Mania for more awesome cartoons like this recapped on your feed. And press that bell icon too to never miss an update. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace!